Hello and welcome to Company Culture with Yvette C. Owens, where we explore the behaviors of those in your organization, even from the top senior leadership all the way through all the ranks of leadership and your individual contributors. Everyone influences your company culture. And we are always encouraging you. I'm always encouraging you to be very intentional about how you the culture that you have in your setting and reinforcing, because if you don't, then everyone else will, circumstances will. We have various situations that will give people perceptions about ourselves as well as our organization. So it's extremely important that we are very, very intentional about creating, establishing, and reinforcing our culture. What is culture? It's how people feel when they're interacting with you. It's how what their experience is like. Remember, people may not always remember what you say, but they always will remember how you leave them feeling. And when we talk about our organizations and we talk about even ourselves as an individual that want to be an influencer, whether we want to be a speaker or we want to bring our own products and services to folks, or we just want to have a community movement, people will remember how you make them feel. And so that's when we that's what we mean about culture. What's it like to be in your space? What's it like to be in your space? And today, I wanted to reflect on resistance, because there's much change, so much change, and your folks around you, even ourselves, at times can get oversaturated with all the change. It's like one more thing, and some of these changes are really life changing changes. They are really things that we'll never go back to doing, uh, um, living in that certain way again, because our life, our whole atmosphere has changed. So how do you come back? How do you combat resistance? Because you have um we have to continue to move forward. You have assignments that you have to complete. You have products you want to bring to marketplace. You have people you want to touch and reach. You have communities you want to help change. How do you keep your team going when there's so much change and so much resistance, and they build up resistance? So let's first talk about where resistance comes from. Resistance comes from, and that's where we wanted to focus today on, is lack of trust. Do I believe that this is going to work? Because when you've been working at something and working towards something for a very, very, very long time, it could feel like, man, maybe this is not working. But that's the last thing you want to do, is to speak negative about where you're going to bring a whole lot of negativity around you just through your words, and not alone your actions, to shut down things prematurely just because you're tired. Just because you're tired, or just because you can't see your way. So it's really, resistance comes from that. The other resistance can also come from you, who are those who are leading the way, have not don't have a proven track record in that area, nor have a good proven track record with the people you're leading. And so that's why I wanted to focus on trust. Now, people come to you as a leader with varying degrees of trust. Let's say trust experiences. I won't say trust issues. They come to you with various trust experiences, most of which are not very positive, right? So if someone has been betrayed, if they've worked with a leader or other people who have promised certain things and not delivered, but yet continue to require something from them, but they're not delivering on on their part, or they've just seemed to be using you and your platform or your influence, and never really rewarding you for that, or never giving you even the credit for it, then trust is jeopardized, right? It's really diminished. Or worst case, you lost their trust. And trust is a tough thing to get back. It's a tough thing to get back. We talk about intentionality, about creating your culture, but you have to really be intentional about getting someone's trust back. And that person has to be willing to step into that space and be willing to walk with you back to a place of trust. They have to trust. You can't It's hard for you to build somebody else's trust back. I mean, absolutely, you can change your behavior. You can deliver on your commitments. You can share more information so people will know what's coming and how they can adjust and adapt to it, how they can respond to it. You give them the power to respond to it as opposed to dictating how someone should respond to a change. That These are all the things that we should be mindful of when we talk about how do I deal with resistance. We have change, and we have to go and we have to make these changes because what we used to do is not going to work today. So how do I deal with this resistance? How do I get my team moving and motivated and feeling good about where we're going, not just going where we're going, but feeling good about where we're going? You have to sell it. We have to create that trust. They have to know that I'm going to be there for you. You're going to be there for them. You're going to be there for them in the good times and in the bad times. That you are going to absolutely protect them from as many roadblocks, as many barriers as possible. And yes, I said it, protect them from as many roadblocks and barriers as possible. That is what leadership is about. That's what we are supposed to do. Now, we can we protect them from everything? Well, maybe not, but we can absolutely react to it if something gets by us and help us move past it. Take the leadership to move past it. Good morning, Gwen. Good morning. So good to see you, and thanks for joining. Please share this because we're talking about um, trust and how do we deal with the resistance of people and moving with people forward, because there's a lot of change. Let's face it. There's change in our personal lives. There's change in our communities. There's change in our workplaces. There's change in the world, and we can get oversaturated with all of that change. So how do you get people to continue to who are walking alongside you to move with you? Build up that trust. And there's nothing greater than to build up that trust than communication. Honest, authentic communication. Share where they are. Share even your vulnerability and where you're skeptic, because then you're relating to where they are. You don't want to get stuck there. So you need to really deal with this internally, personally first. Where am I in this change that's coming forward that we have to meet? Where am I? Where um, we have to come into the office, or we can no longer um, we can no longer follow this process, but now we have to follow that process, which seems a lot more work. And everything seems a lot more work, right? When it's new. Let's just face it. And it may not be a lot more work. Sometimes it is, but when it is, let's just be honest. Good morning, Belinda. Good morning. Thank you so much. And please share this. We're talking about how do you deal with resistance? And the component I wanted to share today, and I'm going to do a little series on this. So today we're talking about trust. Build up trust. Do you have a reputable, good credit track record with those that you want to follow you? Are they, have you proven out that no matter what happens, that you are looking out for them and their best interest? And sometimes that can get tricky Because even if it's a scenario where they're not going to get exactly what they want, at least they know if you have a good track record and they trust you. They know that we're here where we are right now because and you've done your very best and this is where you're ending up. Does that make sense? When people trust you, even if the outcome is not as favorable as they would like, and even you would like, because we all want everybody to flourish. We all want everyone to get the best out of every scenario. We all want everyone to feel good about the change that was coming, but sometimes that's just not possible. But if they can trust your integrity, if they can trust that you have done absolutely everything in your power to bring out the very best possible outcome, then that resistance is less, is minimized. And even if you are a leader and you have to let people go. If you're doing your very best to help them find that next place, because that may have been a shift that you didn't foresee, they didn't foresee, but it's all going to work out for their good. How about that? Because we've all had those moments where I don't want to do this. I don't want to go here, but we trust the process. So we're talking about trust today. Are we leading so people can trust us? And how do we do that? We have to trust how we're feeling, be very authentic, and build a relationship prior to the change. Now, we are all in a lot of change right now. So you're saying, okay, I didn't do that before. So what do I do now? Start where you are. Start exactly where you are and build up a reputation, build up a relationship with those who you're leading so that they will trust you. And you build up relationships by sharing time, again, sharing, being transparent with where you are and how you overcame it, how you're able to move forward, because people are looking for examples. They're looking for, show me how to get through this. And when they can see someone who has gotten through it, or is working their way through it, having success working their way through it, they will follow your lead. Because we've all been in situations where I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to begin. I wish someone would show me. And that's why I'm here. That's why others are here. That's why you're there. And that's why, again, I say, if you can deal with it yourself personally, first, be mindful of this is exactly where I am. We have to adapt to this change. Not only that, but I have to lead others through the change. Oh, yeah, we got to deal with it. We got to deal with it. But then you can communicate where you are, your process, communicate the process for everyone to go and work through the change that's happening. And then you'll gain more trust and less resistance. What are we talking about? We're really talking about credibility. And again, it's tougher to deal with and build when you're in the moment when people have to trust you. When you're on that edge of the plank and you all got to jump, not knowing if there's a boat underneath, not knowing what's going to catch you, not knowing how you're going to get across. It's tough to build up that trust then. And you might see more people saying, yeah, no, I'm not going. I'm not going. But if you can build up that trust, not if. Good morning, Sheila. Good morning. If you build up that trust, if you take the time now, right now, to begin building relationships with those around you, sharing your heart, sharing your vision, sharing your past experiences, what you've overcome, sharing where you failed, and had to pick yourself up or had to have someone come along and pick you up and help you move forward. And that your commitment to those who are now following you, you start to build that trust. And remember, as the leader, when you're out in the forefront and you're intercepting those things that could get to your team or people, individuals on your team, when circumstances happen and accusations are coming towards individuals and you know the truth, you know the circumstances, and you step in there alongside them to state their case, to build up their rapport. And yes, we all own our rapport. None of us should expect that any one person is going to do the work that I have to do for me. I have to build my own rapport. I have to build my own credibility, and so do each of your team members. And as a leader, when you have people who are taking ownership for their own growth, for their own development, for their own credibility, and you come alongside and support them in that, especially in the face of other senior leaders, that's building trust. I've had a gentleman recently leave our organization, and he shared in a note to me that you are far better than just a leader. We knew we could trust you because you would protect us. That speaks volumes. And there can be a downside. So there's a wide spectrum of trust, right? Or protection. And I've gone the whole gamut. I've gone this perspective or the spectrum of being so protective that I could see them heading down a road, and I could see them heading for that brick wall, and I would literally, with all my might, all my intellect, all my power, all my influence, throw myself in between them and that train wreck that they were getting ready to have. Can I tell you that didn't prove out to be good for me or for them? Didn't prove out to be good for me or for them. Good morning, Lori. Good morning. And we love you too. Thank you for joining. Everyone, please share this because we're talking about trust and building and trust and the importance of trust with breaking down resistance. When people can trust you. So I talked about um, that far end of the spectrum where I was, where, yeah, I was protecting them all right, but I was throwing myself in between them and that wall, and it was not good for them nor for me, because we diminish their people's development when we get too much in the way of trying to protect them. And can I tell you, can I be totally honest and transparent? It was less about protecting them and more about protecting me. Let's just be truthful and shame the devil. It was more about me protecting me, because when your team or individual on your team has a train wreck or doesn't is not successful, who do they come ask about it? Where do the fingers point? At the leader. At the leader. So I was really so far on that end of the spectrum of protecting that it wasn't healthy. And I've learned over time to get to that middle ground where they own their development as well as I own their development. They own their development, and I also own a portion of that development. What do I mean? People around you who are following you, who are coming along to fill in a vision, they don't always see what you see in your position. You have privy to more information than they do. You have privy to different circles than they do because simply of your position. Not because we're better than, it's just your role. You have more information. Are you sharing the level of information that you have with the people you're leading so they can be their very best? And when you do that, And I know that there's some information that's very confidential that you cannot share, but there's a way that you can take even the most confidential information and prepare your team to be ready for what that information is going to bring when it's being released, when it's ready to be revealed. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you might not be able to give them every specific item from A to D, from A to Z, but you absolutely can say, I now have this information. I have to keep it to myself, but how can I prepare my team for what's coming? And you don't have to release that specific information, that sensitive information, but you know enough that you can prepare them for what's coming without revealing the specifics. That's how you walk away with people feeling like she's got our back. He has our back. He's always going to be there for us. Always going to be there for us. Yes, they own their development and I own their development. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think too often we've gone to a place where it's like it's every man for himself. What in the world? How can we leave people to their own demise to figure out their own development? How? How can we do that? How can we possibly do that and expect them to be successful? They can't. But when you partner together, when you collaborate together, and they say, I want to be my best, and you say, I want us to be our best, then you will invest in them as they're investing in themselves. Sometimes there'll be moments where you're investing in them more than they're willing to invest in themselves because they just haven't gotten there yet. That's where trust comes from. That's where trust comes from. Yes, that's where trust comes. Yes, I have more information to share with my followers so that absolutely great, great, great. Be successful. That's what it's all about. And when you can share information that people will be successful, it's trusting them. And remember, even in those tough times. So I'm using the word trust, but it also relates to credibility. Are you credible enough? Do they know that you're going to go and pitch hit for them? When they do that, they will not only that will not only break down resistance, but they'll be like, okay, we have this challenge. This is how we're going to go and get and tackle it. They'll be ahead of you. They'll be thinking with you. They'll say, yes, we can do this. You'll find that the motivation will be there because they know you're there for them. They know you're there for them and with them and for them. Yes, ask Holy Spirit and he will give you the wisdom to move your team for he certainly will. Especially in those difficult places and times where you can't share the information, some of the details, but you can absolutely develop them. And remember, there's certain skill sets, there's competencies, teaching people to be critical thinkers. Allowing people to be when you're allowing people to be critical thinkers, that's they become better influencers, right? How do they even rally the team? How can they really invoke even more team dynamics among their peers? We give them the opportunity to do all of that when we look for the wisdom. Yes, we leave too many people out. Absolutely. No, we are our brother and sisters keepers. Absolutely. We are our brothers and sisters keepers. We are. Trust and loyalty are the key to great partnerships and relationships. So that's what we're talking about. Trust. That's what we're talking about. Trust. Trust, trust, trust. Trust, trust, trust. And if you don't have that trust, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. I'm thanking you. Thank you for everybody who's commenting. I am so grateful for you commenting. And please share this because there is a lot of change around us. Let's face it. And when you're a leader that paints, oh, that's not happening. Oh, this is not. Come on now. They see it and you see it. So we're not going to do this. The emperor has clothes on when the emperor does not have clothes on. I don't know how many of y'all remember that story, fairy tale as children, but the emperor goes down the city streets parading himself in the nude. And it wasn't until a young man says, the emperor has no clothes on. So don't try to paint what's ugly or not favorable or not or something that's a gap as a positive. Everybody in the world sees it's a gap. So own up to the gap and invite others to come to the table with you to fill the gap. That's trust. Oh, you're inviting me to share my ideas? That builds trust. Oh, you're inviting me to the conversation? You're inviting me to help figure out how we can overcome this scenario? And when you do that, you really hear people. Too often leaders say, I'm inviting you to the table, and then you let them talk, and then you say, okay, but this is what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. And I get it. You have, as a leader, the final decision. Just make sure you're making an informed decision and you acknowledge the contributions of other people, their thoughts, their work ethic, their work contributions. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge it. No matter how it gets used in the end. And you will have the trust. You will build that trust among your team and those who you're trying to influence, your customers, your clients. When you acknowledge, I've heard you and I've incorporated this portion for now because that's what we can incorporate, or we're going this direction because acknowledge you heard them, give them an opportunity to come to the table to be heard, be there for them to intercept any barriers that they might be having, to troubleshoot for them, to stand on and in up for their reputation, because you all have, as leaders, seen people come attacking your reputation, and you would have wanted someone to say, yeah, that's not her, that's not Belinda, that's not Lori. I don't, maybe it was a moment and they were having a bad day, but that is not the character of Sheila. That's not. And that's how you build up the trust and credibility so that when that next change comes, you could very well not get any resistance. Now, let's not, as I close, let's not confuse questions with resistance. People want clarity on what the change will be, why we're making the change, how the change will impact them, how the change will impact those around them. That's just reasonable questions that you should already anticipate when you're communicating a change. And you may not know it all. And you could say, this is where we think it's going to impact people. This is why we're doing it, blah, blah, blah. Right. And as more information comes, then you can react to that and you can build that into what you're messaging around that change. But when people ask questions, it doesn't mean resistance. Resistance looks like you communicate it as well as possible and people just are not coming with you. They're going the opposite direction. They're talking against it. They're not coming to the table and sharing their concerns. So don't confuse concerns with resistance. So I hope this is helpful for you today. Thank you all for joining. You've been a fantastic group today. Thank you for popping in, for everyone who popped in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And remember that it takes each one of us, every one of us to build a healthy culture where everyone can thrive. And trust is a major component of building that healthy culture where absolutely everyone can thrive. Thank you so much. I'm glad this was helpful. For those of you who are in the New England region, October 21st, we're having the Power Pure Pursuit, where we're going to explore more of these leadership skills in a very fun, packful, energy filled space here in Bloomfield. So if you're interested in that, check out my timeline, check out my pages. It's out. The information is out there, and we still have space for you. It's food, music, and energy filled, and you're gonna walk away enhancing your leadership skills and trying on in a very safe space new leadership skills. How many of us would have wanted to be able to know how to do something before we got thrown into the fire? Too often, leaders are thrown into the fire, right? So, the whole idea around Power Pure Pursuit is that you get in a very energy filled room with diverse people to enhance, share your experiences, build up new skills, so that we can exercise our power in a very pure way. And why do I say power pure as a power powerful? You can be powerful and not pure. Come on, somebody. You can be powerful and not pure. And it's time now, especially with all of these changes that everybody's experiencing, that we're power pure. Let that be our pursuit. I hope to see you in the room on October 21st. Share it, and until next Thursday, it takes all of us to create a healthy environment. Let's do our part. Bye bye now.